right next to me. I don't know if you can see him. We haven't even got desks here at the moment. We're making do, but he's just on my lap. You see him there? Right. We haven't even got desks, so we've got to buy desks and everything for the short time we're here because can't work from the bed. Anyway, yeah, but so...
Sorry to interrupt. Can you not get a collapsible table that you can put away and take with you wherever?
We could, but I like the standing desk because we had a walking pad. We got a walking pad, and I like to be able to, like, on some coaching calls, I just pop it up and I'll start walking. And then we're checking, and I just get loads of steps. It's so easy. I start on it, whereas I'm sitting now, I can already feel my hips are so tight. I feel like I need to stretch straight away. So the collapsible ones are really handy, obviously, if you're traveling a lot, but that wasn't our goal. Our goal was to be settled in the UK. But yeah, the whole situation, I'll briefly sort of just touch on it. You already know, obviously, we moved from Lisbon to head to Brighton, and, you know, a major life move, a major business move as well, because we're going to sort of like we have to change everything over, and it was thought through carefully. We had obviously that place lined up. We had a plan. It was looking excited. Obviously, we arrived, and that place was sort of just full of mould, not a bit of damp in the corner. It was just everywhere. So for Viola with that lung condition, it's not just unpleasant. It's genuinely uninhabitable. So we couldn't stay there, and obviously we went expecting reasonably, I think, this would be acknowledged and resolved, but instead we got the opposite. We got combative, immediately defensive, and a flat refusal to return our money because we'd paid up front, which was, you know, in the many thousands. It was just shy of like 10K. So, you know, with that being withheld in the moment and no obvious sign that they intended to give it back, we just moved country. We're, you know, no base essentially. Viola's health immediately compromised. If we stay there, we gave the keys back, and you know, we were living in hotels, eating expensive food because food is bloody expensive. We were eating out all the time. Yeah, just burning through that type of money is making me wince when I think about it. And that whole week, just that week, cost us £1,500 in hotels, in food, in travel back to here. So it was stressful. You know, we made the decision. We drove to Germany just to step back, to breathe, to recalibrate before making the next move. Now, I want to talk about that word for a moment. It's recalibrate, because I didn't say retreat, and that, you know, I didn't say give up. I did not say fall apart, because I mean, even though falling apart was probably absolutely available to us that last week, I said recalibrate, because I think the reason I say that one and not a different one is because today's live, I want us to mention, I want us to be about that. I think the thing is, a week like that, when you're in the middle of it, there's a story that you can tell yourself that's completely understandable, and it would have been absolutely crushing to live inside. And the story goes something like this: we've, you know, made a terrible mistake moving. We've lost a huge amount of money, and we're not going to get it back. We cannot trust letting agents or landlords. We have no stable base. Our business is disrupted. Viola's health has been put at risk. Everything is more fragile than we thought, and this was the wrong decision, and now we're paying for it, right? Every single sentence in that story is based in something that actually happened. Nothing in it is a lie, you know. But if you sit inside that story and you let it run unchecked, it does not just describe your week. It starts to describe your life. It starts to describe your judgment, your fate, your future, your capacity to make good decisions. And that is the story that was available to us in the moment. And I want to show you why I'm not living in it, or we're not living in it now. But before I do, have you ever had a week where the story you told about yourself felt like it was describing your whole life, not just that week? I'm just letting the dog out while I hear your responses. Go on. I want to hear your responses. A week where the story you told yourself about whatever that week was, it felt like you were just describing your life, not just that week.
The weekend Terry and I got together, he borrowed a caravan, which it looked fine. On the way there, we got a blowout. So we had to pull over, change. We had a spare, put the spare on, got where we were going. First morning, I'm cooking breakfast and we had a flame throw up from the grill and took my eyebrows off. I threw a frying pan out of the door and up next door's caravan. Fortunately, the fire had gone out by then. So that's that bit. Then we went to bed that night and both breads broke. The ones we were using and the one Terry's daughter was using, they all broke. So we had some makeshift beds for the next night. We managed to do something that worked for the weekend. Then we were just about leaving where we were staying and somebody ran towards us saying, you've got a flat tire on the caravan. So that was the other side, yeah. So Terry had to unhitch the caravan, and this is a bank holiday Monday, and somebody local took him somewhere to find another tyre, put a new tyre on it. We got home, and I'm reversing him into where the storage was at his garage, and I'm sort of, come on, and I heard this awful noise, and I knew what had gone on. He was converting an old bus at the time and putting like a ramp that would drop down so he could put his race car in the back of it. And it was all up, but the peg to hold it up was sticking out. And as I said, come on, it's gone through the back window on the caravan. So, and on top of that, that was supposed to be a race meeting, and his car was tipped to win the class he was in that year, and it failed scrutineering because somebody who'd seen it at a different race meeting earlier in the year and not told him about it decided that he was going to fail him at the race meeting, then said to him, well, just cut it out and weld a new piece in. And Terry said, it's directly above my head. You can only get to 3 sides of it. I'm not racing. So he put it back on the trailer and left it. And while it was on the trailer, somebody skidded off because it was a muddy meeting, skidded down the hill, hit the side of his trailer, ripped the cover and stuffed all the side of his car in. So it was a really eventful weekend. But in the end, he just went, shut the gates on the garage, where he was keeping the caravan. He said, I don't care. We'll sort it next week.
Yeah.
He was in such a good mood because we'd just got together, so nothing mattered.
Yeah. But this is like, this is brilliant because you didn't live in that story. Like there's a lot of research around this. Like there's a psychologist called Martin Seligman. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but decades ago, he and his colleagues identified something called explanatory lifestyle. It is the habitual way that you explain bad events to yourself, essentially, and it's a really strong predictor that we have in human psychology of whether someone recovers well from adversity or whether that difficulty tips them into sort of helplessness and depression. And he found that the stories that people tell themselves about hard things tend to vary on 3 dimensions. And the 3 dimensions essentially are the difference between someone who bounces back and is quite resilient and someone who spirals. Now, the first dimension that we have is permanence. And the question you ask yourself, is this permanent or temporary? So do you tell yourself things are always like this, or nothing ever changes, I always end up here? Or do you tell yourself this is hard right now and right now is not forever? Like those 2 distinctions are massive. The second dimension is pervasiveness. Does the bad thing bleed into everything or does it stay contained? So like Terry, then he was like, it didn't bleed into the next week and then into his work and stuff like that. So the question you ask yourself in that instance is, does that bad week become everything is falling apart, my whole life is wrong, I cannot do anything right, or does it stay as a bad week in one area while the rest of your life remains intact? Now, I think Sharon's really, really good at this. If she'll have a challenging week, she goes, it's a tough week, this, and this. I'm going to be really, draw a line in the sand. It is what it is. And I think she's very resilient in that way. So, and then we've got third. The third dimension is personalization. This is a bit more nuanced, but it's about how much you take on versus how much you recognize was situational. And the healthiest version is not blaming yourself for everything and not blaming everyone else for everything. It's about being honest about what was yours and what was not. So essentially, this Seligman found that people who explain bad events as temporary, contained, partially situational, essentially any of those sort of ways to describe an event, a temporary description, so to speak, they maintain their motivation better. They're significantly less likely to slide into sadness, depression after that adversity. And whereas people who explain bad events as permanent, pervasive, and I suppose entirely personal, why is this happening to me, sort of thing, lean much more towards being vulnerable long term, or learned helplessness, if you've ever heard of that term. Basically, the feeling that whatever they do, nothing matters. And I want us to sort of, I want to show you sort of what this looks like in practice using our actual week. So permanent or temporary, was the mold situation that we had, the combative landlord letting, the hotel bills, the lettings agent, defensive, the disruption, essentially, was any of that permanent? No, it was essentially just a chapter. It was an expensive, it was a stressful, it was generally an awful chapter, but it has edges, right? It has bookends. So there's a before it and there's an after it. And we have not lost the capacity to find a home. We have not lost the capacity to continue, building our business and or make good decisions. The specific situation is temporary, even if it feels enormous, and it did feel enormous in the moment. So that's the question. Phase one. Then pervasive or contained. This I haven't let this spill into everything that we are and everything that we've built. Our coaching works, our community is real, the work that we do with every you women every day is intact. Our relationship with me and Viola's relationship is obviously still intact, but we came through a brutal week and it held. And that the mold that was in the building, it's not our whole life. Even though it felt like it for a few days, we just constantly talking about that. And it was contained in that week. And then there's personalization. Was this our fault? Did we make a terrible judgment call? When we discussed this, me and Viola, we said, like, should we have gone to visit it in person, even though it's an expensive trip out there? Have we chose the right area? It's by the sea and it's more, we were asking those questions to ourselves. And honestly, I don't think we did. I think we did our due diligence. The property failed to meet basic standards that I don't think any of you would be happy to move into, and the lettings agent chose to be dishonest and combative. So we were essentially pursuing what we were owed through the proper channels, and what is ours to own is the decision about what we do next. So we took to Germany just to recalibrate. The situation itself was not of our own making. So when you run the actual facts through those three questions, the story changes, not because you're pretending, not because you are papering over real difficulty with, toxic positivity, but because the accurate story is not as catastrophic as the one the overwhelmed brain wants to write when everything just sort of hits you at once. So driving to Germany was not a defeat. It was just a temporary recalibration in response to sort of like a contained crisis that was not of our making. And that sentence for me feels completely different to live inside rather than the alternative. It's just like, oh, the English dream's not going to happen or anything like that. And for you watching, perimenopause, menopause change how these sort of situations plays out in your body, especially your mind as well. And that matters because when you've got estrogen, you've got progesterone fluctuating in perimenopause, and obviously in menopause it just sort of bottoms out. Your nervous system is less buffered, so your stress response fires harder. It takes you longer to come down. Your mood is more reactive, and it's often harder to trust as an accurate read of reality. So what that means is the story your brain writes when a hard week hits is more likely to be permanent more likely to be pervasive, more likely to be for you to be catastrophizing. I always struggle with that word, catastrophizing, um, than the actual facts warrant. And I don't people blame themselves, but that's not a character flaw. This is your biology affecting your cognition. And knowing that does a few things. It doesn't make the hard week less hard, but it does mean that when you hear that inner voice saying everything's wrong, it's always my fault, always has been this, or when you berate yourself, I'm fat and I always will be. It's incorrect. But with those facts, you'll be able to just sort of hold it a little more lightly. You can ask yourself, is the situation that I'm in right now talking, or is this my nervous system talking? Because they're not the same thing. So run that. I want you to actually do this. Next time you've got a challenging week, and you will because life does not stop being hard. I want you to sort of catch the story that you're telling yourself about it. Write it down if you can, and then run it through the three questions. Is it permanent or is it temporary? Is this everything or is it one thing? How much of this is mine to own and how much is circumstance? Because most of the time you are going to find the honest answers are more temporary than it feels, more contained than it feels, and more situational than your inner critic wants to admit. And that shift in the story doesn't make things go away. you know, you'll still have, we still had that landlord to fight in the moment. We still have a disrupted move to resolve. We've got no stuff because that's all been shipped to the UK where it has to go in storage for now. But we are doing it from a place of clarity rather than a place of collapse. And that is what I think resilience looks like. It's not the absence of a hard week. It's not holding it together while you're falling apart inside. It's the story that you choose to tell about what happened and whether that story opens a door or closes one. And I shared this today because I think the most powerful teaching we can do in this community is not theoretical, it's real. I think that you deserve to see what the tools we work with here are tools that I personally use in my life, in my actual life, in real time. And this past week was just a test of that. I want you to know that, that's why I showed up to the live this week. Because even though I'm not in an ideal place for it, like I'm in the bedroom, I'm sitting on the bed. I chose to tell myself that this is, it's a challenging week, and this week is hard because we don't have no desk, we don't have anything. I'm working, I'm doing coaching calls from the bed, and but it held. So the homework is one thing. Think about the hard week that you've had recently. Could be this week, could be last week, could be whenever it was. Whenever it was fresh, especially. Write down the story you told yourself about it, then run it through those three questions: permanent or temporary, everything or one thing, was it all mine or partly circumstance? And I want you to just sort of share with us, what you find in the comments, because even just like a one word that shifts when you ask the questions, permanent becomes temporary, everything becomes one thing. I want to see what sort of moves for you on those challenging times, because I think a lot of you are carrying a story about a hard week that is bigger than that actual week was for you. And I think you deserve a more accurate story. So I want to find it together. With regards to sort of that and the mindset stuff, is there anything that anybody wants to go over? Anything wise, especially mindset? No.
No.
Good. Okay, good. Good. Because we are capable of incredible things. The brain is incredibly powerful. We just sometimes we misdirect it, and sometimes that is the case of a lack of awareness. So like, if you think about it, like whenever something difficult happens to you, you've got every right to cocoon up and and just stay in bed or something, watch something, and just sort of comfort yourself, whether through food, whether through whatever it is. But knowing that you can sort of rewrite the next chapter, because that was a difficult week chapter wise. That was a chapter that I wouldn't want to revisit or relive
Mm,
many days. But
yeah,
I know that this next chapter's mine, this next chapter's ours. So, and we'll have some bad chapters like that in our life. Sometimes the chapters go on for longer than we want to. But it's the story that we tell ourselves can can really improve that. It's not going to take the pain away from a difficult week. It's not going to make it any less stressful, but it can give you hope coming out the back of it. And I think that's where I wanted to sort of touch on,
mm,
because I think, yeah,
yeah,
the stuff Martin Seligman talks about is interesting. So,
mm,
yeah,
yeah.
have a think.
I had another episode more recently that you might have seen in my check-ins over the last few weeks if you've had time. Terry was having a really tough time health-wise. We actually thought he was about to, the worst was going to happen, because he was collapsing and not coming out of it for long periods of time. Anyway, and that was going on for like 2 weeks. During that 2 weeks, I was fast asleep in bed over the weekend, one weekend, and I was woken by a revving engine and then a bang. And at the time, we had roadworks around on the approach road to where I live, and I thought somebody had hit the roadworks. It turned out they'd hit my car, and it was a police chase.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Tell me.
Yeah, the driver of the van that hit my car did a bunk through my back garden and over my fence. The police didn't bother chasing because they knew who he was and where to find him. But then the police, in their infinite wisdom, decided to push the van back to, I presume, to straighten it up, ready to get it towed away. But they hit my car again when they pushed it back.
Yeah,
And I was telling my stepdaughter and her fella what was going on, and I should have listened to them and just done what they said, because I did try to get the police to try and own up that they caused the majority of the damage, because the guy who hit my car, all he did was a glancing blow, and he just put a scratch over the wheel arch. That was it. But the police broke the tail light, damaged the bumper. They did more damage. So I tried to get the police to own up, and they basically just went silent on me. So in the end, I went through the insurance. But my son-in-law said to me, just withdraw your claim, get your tail light done, and polish them scratches out. It'll be the cheapest way of doing it. And I ignored him stupidly because Terry wasn't well, and I just didn't have the headspace to deal with that as well. So I went through the insurance, and they wrote my car off for the scratches and tail light. So I bought it back because it cost me £100 to put it back on the road. So I bought it back, but it's now a category N write-off. So the value of it has decreased. But I had no intention of selling it anyway, and it is an older car, but
yeah,
it does its job.
yeah. That's it.
Yeah, but at the time it was just too stressful to manage, but it's done. It's done. I'm back on the road. I'm running it as I was before. Terry's made a vast improvement, although he's very, very tired, but we're dealing with it. So, we're back to normal, sort of whatever normal is now.
Yeah, I'm glad he's made an improvement, because it was yeah,
It
it was
was
a tough
rough.
time.
Yeah, it was. It was rough. We honestly thought he was going, but he's just very, very tired now. So he's sleeping. I've been to see him today, and he was asleep when I got there. He woke up for his evening meal and went straight back to sleep. So yeah, I sat with him for a while and then thought, well, if he's not waking up, I might as well go home and have a walk.
That's it.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, good job for sort of bouncing back. I think that that is a prolonged
it is.
chapter is difficult for you, because it's such an extended one. It's not like an intense week.
And to be honest, it's not intense all the time. It's just when he has these blips.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time, you relax a bit. You never fully relax because it can happen on your stage, but you relax, so you're not as stressed out, and you can deal with that because it's his normal. So yeah, so we're back to one of his normals again at the moment, but we're seeing where his normal settles.
That's it.
Because he doesn't know me again now. He's no clue who I am now. So yeah, that's hard.
Does he know that you're familiar though?
I think, well, today there was no acknowledgement at all as to who I was. He didn't even really look at me. So, but other days he'll look at me. One day last week, he looked at me. They'd been and changed him and brought him back, and he saw me and his face just lit up. So he recognised me then, but he doesn't know who I am, but he recognised my face.
Really, yeah.
So, yeah. So, and obviously he realises that it's somebody he likes. So, yeah, he was pleased to see me. But today there was nothing at all.
Those days are horrible.
Yeah. It's harder, but I've been through it with my mum. So you sort of steel yourself to it. You know it's coming. So.
Have you not, this is not mindset related, but have you considered, I think we talked about this, like doing like, I know you've done, I think you share stuff about Alzheimer's Foundation, stuff like that, but have you thought about doing like something, like this is not something that I think you should do, but like this is the first thing that popped into my head, like Land's End to sort of John O'Groats Walk and stuff like that, or a obviously that's a big one, but like something smaller, like you can do the King's. Have you seen the King's Path?
No, I've not seen that, but I have done Alzheimer's walks. I've done like the 10Ks that they do to raise funds for them and things like that. I've done those. I've done 3 of those more recently. Well, 1 more recently, and 2 while it was my mum that was in care. But time sometimes, it's when you've got a life to live as well. Trying to fit it all in.
It's a big, that kind of stuff is a big commitment. Whereas like a weekend 10K or a 5K are still intense, but
yeah,
more manageable, isn't it, with work and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I think when Terry's not here anymore, I think then I'll have time to do those things, and that'll give me a purpose as well. So, it'll keep me focused rather than just spiraling.
Yeah, I think they're really good causes. It's what I love about the London Marathon and stuff like that. For me, it's about the charities, and for me, it's about the people who come together and support each other. Because it's just, so when I was there supporting Viola on that one and supporting everybody else that was sort of running, it was just, I don't know, I just felt so much love in that whole just sea of strangers. I just felt so much love and everyone's so supportive. I was like, this is what it's all about. It's not about the elite people running sub 2-hour marathons, although that's amazing. It's about these. It's about
everybody's story, isn't it? It's the same story, but sharing experiences and supporting people through them. Yeah,
that's it exactly. So okay, I can hear Jack whinging. No time to go. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you all have an amazing week. If there's anything that you need from me or Viola, let us know.
Will do. Hope you get settled quickly.
Thank you.
All right. See you, Dean.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Sharon. Bye, Karen.
Bye.